We're going to explain how to fix the type error cannot read properties of undefined reading guy error in Angular unit testing. This frustrating error typically pops up when you're trying to access a property of an object that hasn't been properly initialized or is unexpectedly undefined. Let's break down the common causes and solutions. 1. Incorrect mocking or spying. A major culprit is improper mocking or spying on dependencies within your component's unit tests. If you're using write single quote testbed.configure testing module write single quote to provide mock services or modules, ensure you're correctly configuring them to return sensible default values or simulated responses. For example, if your component relies on a service that returns user data, your mock service should have a method that returns a sample user object, even if it's empty, to avoid undefined. Double-check your mock implementations to ensure they're matching the expected behavior of the real services and returning appropriate values, not undefined. 2. Asynchronous operations. This error often appears when dealing with asynchronous operations like HTTP client calls or RxJS observables. When testing such components, you need to use tools like fake async and tick from @angular/core/testing to properly handle the asynchronous nature of your code. This forces the test to wait until your asynchronous operations have completed before checking the values you need. Remember to import fake async and tick. Inside your it block, wrap your test code inside the fake async function, and at the end of your test call tick. 3. Incorrect component. Initialization. Sometimes the problem lies within the component itself. If you're accessing properties or methods before they've been initialized, you'll get this error. Ensure that you're not accessing write single quote this dot some property write single quote in the component's constructor before it has been properly assigned. Consider using Undefined to access values after Angular has initialized the component. 4. Testing before Undefined. It is essential to correctly test the component after Undefined has executed, if your code's logic depends on initialization. Directly testing right after instantiation might lead to encountering undefined properties that only get values in the lifecycle hook. 5. Missing dependencies. Your component might depend on services or modules that you haven't included in your write single quote testbed.configure testing module. Ensure you've imported and provided all necessary dependencies, correctly mocking any that aren't directly needed for the specific test case. Double-check your imports using providers array in write single quote testbed.configure testing module. Write single quote to provide the dependencies. 6. Debugging strategies. If you're still struggling, use the debugger statement in your code to step through your test and examine the values of your variables at each point. This allows you to see exactly where the undefined value is originating. The browser's developer tools can be used for debugging and tests. Console logging, write single quote console.log, can also be helpful to see the state of your variables. By systematically checking these points, you can effectively pinpoint and resolve the root cause of this common Angular unit testing error.